Guys, Walmart plans to roll out dynamic AI pricing to over half of its stores before the end of the year. But is this a good thing? Well, some say yes, some say no. Imagine it. You walk into a Walmart and you pay $4 for a gallon of milk, but the guy that walks in 10 minutes later pays $3.90. And the guy that walks in 10 minutes after that pays $4.50. Is this the reality that we're going to be living in? Well, it's already happening in Europe. Norway, for example, has a store called REMA, and they adjust the prices of their products 100 times every single day. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, there's a lot of critics, there's a lot of proponents, and so today we're going to examine dynamic AI pricing. We're going to look at how quickly it's being adopted, who the major retailers are that are adopting it. We're going to look at the data, we're going to look at the stats, we're going to look at what the corps say, we're going to look at what the opponents and the critics say, and then we're going to look at what really matters. We're going to look at studies, by the way, but then we're going to look at what really matters. How can you and I, how can we make money? How can we leverage this massive change and find opportunities? Because at the end of the day, guys, that's what we really need to do on this channel, is we've got to not just examine what's happening in the market, but look for opportunities and change. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, is that AI is going to change everything. Can't predict exactly how it's going to, but we know it's going to. So let's get into today's video and let's look at some of the data here. So as mentioned earlier, Walmart is planning to roll out dynamic AI pricing into 2,300 stores by the end of the year. That's over half. Kroger, Whole Foods are also expanding their initial pilots, which allows dynamic AI pricing. Again, you go over to Europe, Netherlands, Norway, this is already in effect. Stores are already dynamically changing prices all the time. And again, just to kind of highlight what this looks like, historically, when you go into a grocery store or retailer, there'll be a paper price tag on there. I used to work in retail. I worked at Target, I worked at Best Buy, and you know, every week, or preparing for the next rollout of products, you'd go out on the sales floor and you'd have a team that goes out and prints up all these tags and places like, this is where this item goes, this is what the price is for the week, these are what the discounts are for the week. They're going to do away with all of that. It's all going to be electronic. And I think that there's a lot of positives here, but I think are some valid concerns. There's a lot of concern over this idea of surge pricing or surveillance pricing. And surveillance pricing essentially means that you're based on racial profiling or facial recognition technology, they can adjust the price to gain the most value out of you. And at the end of the day, that's what I kind of see these retailers doing. The retailers, in my opinion, and again, we'll get more into this, but the retailers, in my opinion, they only care about one thing. They care about profit, okay? That's one of the things that I appreciate about capitalism and I appreciate about corporations is I know what their motive is. Their motive is they want to make more money. And, you know, if the big question here is, where do my goals as a consumer overlap with their goals? Are our missions aligned? I want to pay less money, they want to make more money. So how does that align? I think that's an interesting dynamic. And again, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at, firstly, let's look at some stats here. So their goal here is to boost profits by up to 10% and increase sales turnover by 3%. So basically they're saying, how can we make more money per customer? If I'm going in with a cart, I'm going to be paying more money, I'm going to be buying more stuff. And as a goal, I mean, that's what you want to do as a company. You want to make more money off each customer. What is the customer lifetime value? Okay. And again, with AI, they can track your credit card. They're going to know who you are as soon as you walk into the store. They're just going to have an insane amount of data on you as a person. And again, this is something the critics say, it's like, I don't necessarily want you to be collecting all my private information without my consent and then offering me coupons or pricing or other sorts of offers based on my previous behavior. Although again, that's exactly what's happening. Like if you go into YouTube, it's going to know the videos that you watch, it's going to know how long you watch them, it's going to know what you're subscribed to, which by the way, if you're into these types of topics, if you're a man who's trying to crush it in a new AI world, if you want to stay relevant, respected, and financially free, this is the time to subscribe to this channel. In any event, every big tech company is doing this. This is why there's websites that you go on that if you don't consent to cookies, you don't get any information at all. So basically, they're saying, how do we roll out this digital concept into the physical world? And then how do we leverage all that data, put it through the lens of artificial intelligence, and deliver special offers, special pricing, and potentially price surges? That's exactly what's happening, which I think in some ways is kind of scary, but it's kind of exciting too. On one hand, there could be ways that guys like you and me and families can actually utilize this system for our good, right? Like the tax system, for example, is incredibly complicated, but if you have a good accountant, you can actually win. That's one of the advantages that rich people have, by the way. That's how they stay rich. They know how to work the systems, right? So again, we want to be here. We want to work these systems so we can remain financially free. Okay. Up to now, some of the stats show that dynamic pricing AI has led to a 13% increase in average order value during peak periods and a 5% rise in conversion rates for repeat buyers. So they're already see it working, which is why they're expanding these programs. Walmart plans to deploy electronic shelf labels across 4,600 stores by 2026. And again, so I mentioned earlier 2,300 stores, but they're going to have electronic sales labels in every store. They're going to implement the dynamic pricing in 2,300, if I'm reading the stats and the data correct. They have a $1 billion contract with this company, VusionGroup, VUSION Group, VusionGroup, which might be an interesting one to look at, because if all these retailers are looking, again, not financial advice, but if every retailer is going to be jumping headlong into these electronic shelf labels, you want to be looking at the companies that are facilitating it. That might be a good investment, because they could really, really blow up. Again, not financial advice. Do your research, check it out. But this is why we're here. We're here to talk about what's happening in the market so we can make great moves, okay? So the numbers are there. The big corporations are seeing success. They're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. It's only going to roll out to more and more places. And again, quite frankly, as someone who worked in retail, there was so much wasted time. There was so much wasted paper and electronics just trying to update shelf labels and putting on coupons that, I'm all for efficiency. Efficiency makes the world go around, okay? However, there's two sides of the coin, and the critics are not happy. Just this past week, Congressman Greg Casar introduced the Casar bill, which is a federal proposal to ban companies from using artificial intelligence to set prices or wages based on Americans' personal data. This, by the way, seems to be a particularly Democrat position. Through my research, it seemed like all the Democrats are banding together to kind of like say, we don't like this. Couldn't find anything about Republicans saying that they were in favor or against this. So it seems to be more of a left position that this is a bad thing. I'm going to be bipartisan on this and say, how does it mean that I can get more food for less money? Does it bring prosperity to me and my family? Because whether it's left or right, I don't care. I just want to know if I'm able to achieve that. And then, by the way, going back to our stocks and bonds and our investment opportunities, if you were to have, assuming that it's Democrats that are against the electronic and the dynamic pricing, the electronic sales labels, electronic shelf labels, and they're against the dynamic pricing, well, if you have a Democratic Congress, a Democrat presidency, a Democrat administration, that might reflect negatively on companies like VusionGroup, because they're going to have more headwinds against them. In a Republican Congress, a Republican administration, it might be more friendly towards some of these innovations. Something to think about. So what do the Democrats say? They say privacy, fairness, algorithmic collusion, economic inequality. They don't like it, they don't want it, and they believe that this new technology is going to bring on surge pricing. Companies are going to adjust pricing based on personal and environmental data without consent, which, okay, I can see that. Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bob Casey, and woman, Rashid Tlaib, well, quite frankly, they're pissed off, for lack of a better term. They're pissed off. They say that these stores are going to use facial recognition to profile customers, that they're going to run targeted ads and price adjustments based on race, that they're going to be gouging prices based on race. Quite frankly, guys, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of the racial stuff. Like, does everything have to come back to you're going to pay more, you're going to have a worse life based on your race? Like, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it's tired and it's old. Like, show us some actual freaking data, you know? And I know I'm going to get people in the comments who are angry at me, and that's fine. I just want, you know, and I this is what I tell my kids. We do not judge people based on race. We judge people based on content of character. And quite frankly, I've seen a lot of people who are saying like, oh, well, you know, India this, India that. These are all human beings. They're created in the image of God, every single human here. And I get that we're scared and we're concerned about the way that the world is evolving so rapidly. And again, as men, we need to stay relevant. We need to be respected by our wives. We need to be financially free in order to give our children a better life. Get all that. However, this idea that you can't have abundance because of this person, it's so old, it's so tired. I don't like it. All the racial politics, done with it. Really annoyed. So, you know, again, I just honestly, and again, you can feel free to flame me in the comments. I'm open to it if you bring, you know, if you bring information. But this idea that like Walmart's going to be like, we're just going to price gouge African Americans and charge them more for the same price that we're going to charge the white person. I just don't see why they would do that. I mean, A, it's illegal. B, it's probably, I don't see it being better for their bottom line, you know? So any event, that's my stance. Like, I'm so tired of the, well, you know, this is going to be bad for black people. Like, is it though? Or are you just saying that so you can gain political power? Because quite frankly, that's the way that I see it a lot of times. In any event, the FTC is evaluating and is looking at it, and I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. You know, you can bring your concerns, you can bring your problems, or your concerns about potential problems, like this bill. Bring it on the table. Let's talk about it. Let's investigate it. Let's look at the data. I think that's a fair approach, right? And you're free to make the hypothesis that because X is happening, Y will be discriminated against. That's fair. I just think that it's kind of a tired argument, and I just think that it's a way of triggering people's emotions in order to get them to get votes. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm going to get off my soapbox here for a second. However, I do want to just say that I want to focus on what I can control, generally speaking. And what I can control, in my experience, it doesn't really, you know, whether it's a Republican president or a Democrat president, I generally just don't feel a huge difference. I mean, granted, my stocks are way up this year, so I'm happy about that. My investment portfolio is way up, so I'm happy about that. Regardless, I can't control all of that. What can I control? I can control that I'm investing daily, I'm working on my body daily, I'm paying attention to my wife and my kids daily, I'm learning daily, I'm testing new things, I'm subscribing to channels like this, I'm engaging with people in the comments so I can learn and improve myself. That's what I can control. So that's my stance. All right, so what do the chains say? We've heard what the critics say. What do the chains say? Well, the chains say that, and here's the data here, AI spending in groceries is projected to 4x by the end of 2025. So these companies are like, AI, we're already seeing big returns. We're going to double and triple, and in this case, quadruple down. They expect it to unlock $136 billion in value. And most specifically, that's going to occur in the supply chain and in the logistics. I recorded a video on this last year. I'll put a link to it here. But Walmart is planning to automate, I believe it was a video about Walmart, maybe it's about Amazon, but Walmart, Amazon, they're planning to automate a tremendous amount of their stores. Walmart has a plan to automate over 60% of its stores by the end of the year. Why? Well, because investing in these robots to put stuff on shelves, to take stuff off shelves, to run their warehouses is just going to be more efficient. And when it comes to operations, it's all about efficiency. It's all about no downtime. And humans, we talk, we check our phones, we have sick days, we smoke a cigarette, whatever you're doing. Robots don't do that. Robots just DGAF. They just get after it, right? The chains also say that these electronic shelf labels are going to reduce their paper waste, save time, and save energy, which is someone who's been in retail, that is certainly true. They also say that the prices are rarely going to change during the day. However, when you look at what they're doing in Norway, they're changing the prices 100 times a day. That's 4 times an hour, which is pretty crazy. I was talking to my kids about this before I shot the video. I was like, imagine you're going to buy a stick of gum for 99 cents. And by the time you get to the register, it's $1.50. And they're like, well, that sucks. So that's something to think about. The Kroger CEO, Rodney McMullen, says, we believe over time value will be increasingly important and you can't price your items above the market. And I mean, that's exactly the case. The food and retail industry is insanely competitive. It's insanely competitive. So if you're, I don't know. I just don't see price gouging as a thing, because if I know that this grocery store is charging $1 and that grocery store is charging $2, I'm just going to go to the grocery store that's selling it for $1. And I do. And my family does. And my wife and I, we pay attention to that. So the whole price gouging thing, I don't see it. I'm going to go to the place that's giving me the best price and the best experience. And that's what the Kroger CEO says. So what do the studies show, though? University of California and University of Texas at Austin analyzed over 180 million products before and after electronic shelf labels. Specifically, they researched prices from October 22nd and then mid-2024. They found no evidence of real-time pricing spikes. The implementation of electronic shelf labels increased the cost, get this, 0.0006%. And that study was corroborated by UC San Diego. So at this point, the studies show that it's not really you're not gonna see the price gouging. I appreciate that study. Obviously, studies can be manipulated in certain ways. Obviously, mid-2024, that's before AI started really hitting. Not to say it wasn't a thing, but AI has come a long way over the past year. So the bottom line is this is a pretty big deal for consumers. It's a very big deal for corporations. And we're gonna need a lot more studies. We're gonna need a lot more data. Which brings me down to our final point here, which is how can we actually make money in this new world? How can we leverage these types of pricing shifts and find new opportunities? And listen, guys, by the way, I can only cover so many. I'm recording a new video 6 days a week, but there's only so many topics I can cover. I cover the topics I think they're the most interesting and fascinating and most relevant to us as men who want to be relevant, respected, and financially free during the AI revolution. But there's so much happening, and I cover as many stories as I can. We're typically covering about 6 to 10 stories on my newsletter. It's called AI Update. So go to aiupdate.ai, subscribe to the newsletter, because I just can't cover them all in these videos. Over on the AI Update, I can cover way more. We can drill way more down. I give you more tools to be successful. So go over there, join thousands and thousands of other men just like you on the newsletter at aiupdate.ai. There will be a link below. So let's look at this. How can we make money? What are some ways we can leverage these tools? So I've got 6 different ideas here, some of which are much larger in scope, some of which are smaller in scope, but it's my belief that in this AI world, I've talked about this at length, that I don't want to be job-based, I want to be project-based, I want to own ownership, I want to be involved in multiple projects, I want to be taking many risks and looking for a couple that happen to blow up. So here's a few different ideas. A B2B loyalty program based on shopping history, lifetime value, time of day. So this is kind of an AI triggered mechanism that's taking in all the sales data from these different companies. It's assessing customer lifetime value, retention, frequency, all the data that's relevant to getting and keeping shoppers in your store, and then saying, well, how can we use AI to incentivize and give them special offerings? Okay, I think that's really cool. You've already kind of see this with various loyalty programs, but I see that being expanded out. a markdown optimizer, a system to lower prices on perishables. Okay, so I think this is pretty cool. There's certain products in stores that perish over time, right? So for example, maybe you're paying top dollar for a gallon of milk that has 2 weeks left, and you're paying a little bit less. You're paying less for a gallon of milk that only has 1 week left, right? So you can, as a consumer, pay less for something that's been sitting on the shelf for a longer period of time. I think that's a really cool idea, and something I would want to invest in, quite frankly. I think that's a really good idea. Here's another idea for an app, a bundle builder. So for example, maybe your grocery store or your restaurant or your small chain has a Taco Tuesday night. And so on Taco Tuesday, you get a deal for buying any type of tortilla, any type of cheese, any type of salsa, et cetera, et cetera. And you get your Taco Tuesday night. Now in the past, there will be bundle deals, but it has to be like, all of one brand. But with AI, you might be able to put together a cool model that allows your store to kind of have these bundle builders. Maybe every night you have a different bundle. Shelf test tracker. This would be an app that does A/B tests across multiple regions. So maybe your Walmart in this city is selling at one price, and then this price, and then this price. You're just kind of like testing and just doing A/B testing across tons and tons of sites. Now, I'm positive that Walmart is already doing this at scale. If you're starting a business from scratch, you might not try to target Walmart right off the bat. Maybe you will. It probably depends on your connections, your confidence. In any event, I think that's a cool idea. This is another idea I think is cool. It's a local competitive price watcher. Okay, and this is an app that is for consumers like you and me, and it looks at, well, when is the best time to buy this product at this place? And it's aggregating what the prices are. So for example, you might know that, well, pancake mix at midnight is cheaper than pancake mix at noon on a Sunday. So you can know these are the times I should be shopping, right? And the question is, how significant are those pricing changes going to be at different times of the day? But I think that's a cool way of helping consumers save money, and it's just a cool idea of how to get eyeballs and ear holes. Another idea is a local competitor price watcher. So I kind of mix up my ideas. So this idea would simply rest on, I'm about to buy this item at this store. Is it cheaper over there? And so, not only do you know the best times to shop, but you also know where the best places to shop are. So again, there's different ways that you could kind of roll this out. So those are a few different ideas. Regardless, my stance is that these electronic shelf labels are going to happen. Dynamic pricing is going to happen. It's only a matter of time. It's on us as men to find the opportunities, whether it's investing in the right companies that are on the cutting edge, or it's building out minimum viable products and building out solutions to problems that arise during this time. And I think this is stuff that we should all be thinking about, guys. It's really, really important. Listen, I had a ton of drama happen yesterday on the channel. I released a video about Intel. Intel is laying off 25% of their workforce, and the comments went crazy. I'm gonna share the link to this video with you here. I wanna see you getting involved in the comments. That's where the drama happened. So check out this video from yesterday about Intel. They are making huge waves, and leave your comments below too. I'd love to hear from you. This is where it's happening, boys. This is the place to be. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.